Then one day he randomly just popped the question. He's like, Himath, why don't you work?
Let us know what's going on in your life.
Look at this camera, this camera, this camera.
So,
Hey, no.
Alright, guys, welcome back to another episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Abdul, and you are here back again with the boys. We have Shawan Bandaranaika and Jason Hulangama. And this is a big episode. This is episode 6, and we finally got our very first guest. He's a close friend of ours. He's a very special dude, a fucking lit person. But I think Jason Hulangama has a very interesting introduction.
so yeah, this week is a special episode, as Abdul said. It's a huge episode. Again, a huge episode. Our guest today is someone who's really close to the three of us in some special way. Well, for me personally, him and his twin brother have been like literally my day ones, 17 plus years of friendship here. That's all the way from preschool. He was at one point one of the most athletic goalkeepers, I think, in our school and
God damn.
possibly in the entire country. Without further ado, he's got the biggest booty in the West, and he's an alcoholic, but he just passes out now. He self-proclaimed better twin, Himath fucking Weeraduwa.
Hey, what up?
Up, Himath?
That was good. That
That was sick intro, bro.
That was sound truth, but I'd say the part about
the big booty.
being an alcoholic.
If we'll get comments about it, dude. You'll have to stand up and turn around fast.
That'd be sick, bro.
To give you all like a little introduction about myself to the people who probably wouldn't know me. I'm a guy who's really into sports and poker. That pretty much sums it.
I've got a poker face on also.
some people would, some people have this weird idea that I'm really into drugs and stuff. I'm just here to clear that's all fake. And it's just that I like to occasionally have a bit of alcohol and chill just like 90% of our other friends, excluding
to party hard, in other words.
Love it. Mr. Himath Weeraduwa, you apparently were the best goalkeeper in school.
That's the next
all time. Yeah, that's the truth, bro. Even when I came to school, also, I still remember, bro. People used to talk about you like fucking legendary skills.
I don't know, dude. I mean, people built this crazy hype, and then towards the end, I mean, our entire team, when you consider a final match and everything, so we couldn't live up to the hype. But
that's because you're fucked up, no?
We fucked up. So I mean,
you were leaning 3-0 or some shit, and then fucked it up.
You're big-headed, I'm gonna lie.
It happened, but I mean,
that let us
I
down,
like to
dude.
think
We
that,
fucking sang the school anthem also that.
Yeah, people singing the school anthem was one of the biggest reasons contributing to our loss.
Why is that?
Like,
supposed to motivate you, no? Let's all unite and progress forth, walking hand in hand, dude. That makes me feel some shit.
Alright, so Himath, we all know you're a sick goalkeeper for our school, and you've been fucking talented and blessed with the skill of keeping. But I want to ask you, how did it all start? How did it all begin?
I mean, it's a really basic story. So back then, it's the truth. So I tried like a fuck ton of sports, and me and CS. I mean, starting from grade 1, we did athletics and gymnastics. Moved on to football, karate. I mean, karate. I remember every sport something happened for us to leave, and I think at karate it was I think someone bullied us at karate class, and we ended up. So this was in grade 2. This is someone who's really short. Okay, I mean he's really short now, but this certain
Shit! I think I actually know it.
this certain person bullied me and CS in karate class. So we ended up going home and telling our mom. So my mom ended up coming to school the next karate practice to confront this boy, and from then onwards, that was the end of karate for me and Sia. and then
You
we
get
moved on to
bullied at
cricket.
karate, something's wrong.
And then we moved on to cricket, and cricket was fun. We bought the gear, we bought everything, but then there was a story that this one sir was hitting people with a ball or some shit. I don't know. I can't even remember why, but we ended up quitting cricket as well. Moved on to basketball, and basketball was pretty chilled out. I mean, I like basketball, but for some reason never made the team during selections because I mean selections were just stupid how they selected people.
I know the
But
feeling, bro. Probably fucked up.
for some reason we ended up going football. I mean, I ended up going first because Shavi was convincing people to come. 'Cause, Shavi was
I
kind of a big
deserve some
deal back
credit,
then.
dude,
And,
for all the trophies that was
Shavi,
won later on.
Shavi was a big deal at football. You know, he would flex on us with his kit and stuff at practice. You know, he was a team player.
That oversized kit, dude, that didn't fit me. I didn't pick a number also. I got 56. An atrocious looking number.
For
No
some
one had
reason,
the
me and some other friends we started football together. But once I started football, I felt something different. I mean, football was different to basketball in a way because everyone sort of practiced together. It didn't matter whether you were a newcomer or whatever. Because even if it was your first day of practice, you would somehow end up getting to meet the team players and practice with them, as opposed to basketball where the team would have separate practices in the morning, and newcomers would just have to go to practice with all these young people. So I think that's a big
That's because
reason why.
football wasn't a big thing in school,
I know,
compared to basketball.
it wasn't that big yet. Football was big, but like
Nobody knew about
I
it.
just yeah. So somehow during practice, I just sort of got the feeling that everyone was just kind of close, and it was sort of like a very different experience, and I kind of liked it. So during Wednesdays and Fridays, I mean, when the girls practice, there would just be maybe like 4 or 5 dudes. So we really got to interact with the coach and have like proper sessions, and he'd get to know us. And that's when one day he randomly just popped the question. He's like, "Himath, why don't you try goalkeeper?" And
Pop the
the
question.
rest is
He must will marry me.
so, I mean, I was just like, I mean, I don't mind. Then I kind of like goalkeeping as opposed to running around, and I was kind of lazy back then. And
Found your true
I was,
calling.
I was I would say I was as talented as the rest of the guys in playing normal football. Yeah, that was it. And that's how I ended up being a goalkeeper. But
Sick journey that led to
yeah,
titles and
that
then
that
trophies.
first that first year was crazy. We had like no one had any expectations, nothing, and we just performed, won like our first 4 tournaments, and that's when we started creating this
Hype.
hype exactly surrounding us and everything, and that only eventually led to our downfall, which
That was
prefer
during
if
your
we
biggest
don't
crowd
talk
also.
about. So
Suffered a tough
I have
loss.
a history of choking when it comes to crowds. So a lot of matches where there was like a pretty big crowd that I think our team has choked. I've choked on certain matches, but yeah,
But it's a
I
it's a
mean,
it's the biggest pressure being a keeper, isn't it? It's like
yeah,
the whole
maybe
game revolves around you and
that's
your
that's something that only
skills.
people would understand.
So how
Yeah,
did you
so I
handle the
understand.
pressure of like penalty shootouts and shit, dude? Like, wasn't
I
that
just
some
say
other level?
at the beginning when we were under 15 and stuff, there wasn't really any expectation. So I would just go there and just it was just about just that moment, no hype, nothing, and there was just no pressure. Everything was easy. But like once we grew up and shit, like everyone's just right there. I mean, like everyone expects me to do something, yeah, and that's when like the pressure really got to me. So I mean, I'm not saying we underperformed. We did well every single match. It's just that in finals, things sort of took a different direction.
But then we all know that you're a fucking sick soccer player and a sick keeper. But I
I
also
mean,
know that you
thanks.
love. I know that you love basketball. Tell us about that.
Basketball was something I've always been into. Like I like playing. I started playing basketball in grade four. I went basketball practice from grade 4 to 6 to make it to the team. But I I think I started watching basketball. Like I first saw basketball on the news. I think when the Heat beat OKC, those were the first team names I remember. OKC Thunder, and so I sort of had an idea who. So for everyone who doesn't know, I support LeBron as a player. I mean, that's gonna
OBJ.
sound pretty gay and weird, but a lot of people don't like to support players. But I mean, I know it's pretty cliche, but it's just that I just really like him as a player, and I like what he does inside and off the court. So basically, I think I started watching him properly when the Spurs defeated the Heat. So that was during 2014, I think. And then when he came to Cleveland, I started properly watching most of the game. And I think 2016, we've all treated to one of the best playoff
One of the best
series of
years.
all time. I don't think 70% of people watching, probably like more, watching this podcast would realize the gravity of what he did and what he accomplished. So a playoff series in the NBA lasts 7 games. So coming back from being down 3-1, losing 3 games, and just winning one, having to win every single game towards the end of the playoff series. That's something that has never been done in an NBA final. And
That was a crazy
this
comeback
man,
too.
LeBron James, was able to accomplish this. He was able to lead the team in points, assists, blocks, rebounds, and steals, all 5 categories. Led the
Oh,
team, had some insane moments. Game 7 came through. We'd easily never see this happen in the future. Coming back and someone doing something like that.
there's that
So
legendary meme of him wearing the headphones and the shades
yeah,
on.
yeah,
Straight
exactly.
up him prepping up for the series, knowing that no team has ever come back from a 3-1 deficit. But a crazy story,
It's
bro.
just
From
it's crazy. It's crazy what he accomplished. Yeah, I mean, and ever since that, I just next season, I mean, Durant joining the Warriors sort of ruined everything. It killed his legacy. But I just hope this year we get to make a good return by doing what he does best. We have AD with us, and hopefully it's
Lakers,
number
Lake
four.
Show.
Yeah.
Got JR as well.
Oh,
J.R.
yeah.
Smith
And
also fucking happy for the dude, man. But didn't play since I think the past 2 years, right? I think past 2 years he didn't play a single game, and he comes back, in a few scrimmage games, and he just takes over. Does his thing.
JR,
He's a shooter.
like as of this podcast, I feel like JR and Dion Waiters are performing pretty nicely, and I think they're good additions as opposed to Rondo who's out. And I just feel like whenever Rondo comes on, just to play make and stuff, he just has sort of like a negative impact. So I just feel like Rondo should just stay on the bench and provide guidance and advice from the bench, and that will be the best thing moving forward for the Lakers.
Dude, but this year's championship is gonna be the toughest ever in
Easily,
NBA
bro.
history.
Easily.
You know,
Yeah.
people say that it could be forgotten, but I don't know. I think it
Mm,
would be toughest considering everything that's going on with the virus. With racism and everything they are fighting all of that, along with trying to win a championship. It's insane.
this different sort of environment, I mean, we're not really used to it. So we're obviously going to remember this. I mean, there isn't as much pressure on the players, I would say, because there are no stands, there's no fans like actually screaming and stuff. It's just 2K noises and a bunch of virtual fans in the background. So I would say players would actually get to perform properly, and this would be a pretty memorable final. Because I mean, it's one of the most competitive ones as well,
Oh, true, true.
considering in the past few years. There's all been imbalanced, and there's been super teams and stuff. Hey, Shavi, did you
So,
watch uh, how to uh, how to sell drugs online fast? These
no, are you
episodes?
mad, dude? So, Himath mentioned how to sell drugs online fast. It's a TV show on Netflix. it's a special TV show for me because it's a proper bad trip for me. It made me take the biggest decision of my life, and that's regarding relationships.
You're actually telling me it was the show that sent you on a bad trip.
Yeah, full confession. That's what made me start thinking about a lot of things, or made
So,
me think of this one thing that later led on to me making a decision. But I think that's something you and I can relate on. Uh, Big decisions regarding relationships. What's your thought
yeah,
on relationships, Himath, on long-term relationships?
long-term relationships in general. I mean, regarding on like what I've seen happen with us and most of our friends and all. I mean, everything,
We don't
everything,
cry.
everything.
Oh,
Uh, most of most of the long distance ones. I mean, let's just be honest. I mean, they don't really this thing, but maybe there's just one or two long distance relationships that have actually worked. I think from school days, and I think those are like people who really taken things slowly, and they've just taken their time, and that's
No, but I would say that I have a different opinion when it comes to long distance. I mean, not a different opinion. I agree with you when you said that it does work for a few people at least. But it's just about it's tough to say. Obviously, I haven't been in one, so it's hard to say from my perspective. But all I can say is that I've seen other people and like doing long distance and it properly working out. Even my brother and his wife, he got married, and then they were engaged. I mean, they were married, but they were living in two different countries, so they had to go through the whole thing, and they were already hitched. That makes sense. So in that case, you say they found it tough, but then they found a way to make it work. So I believe that if you're are sure that you're going to be together, sort of thing, I feel like that's when you know it's going to work. And
I
if you're not sure about it, then I feel like that's where issues happen. But I could be wrong. It's just my opinion.
So for me, it's not really about being sure whether or not you're going to be together. Personal experience, I was really sure, but the thing is, like, it also depends on the age where you get into it, right? Like,
yeah.
your
All right,
brother was
fair.
a lot older than I was, and like, I can definitely say that, uh, like, that age where I started was it was at a stage where there was a lot of changes going on. People were still learning about themselves and shit. I was learning about myself,
yeah,
and so ideologies change. The opinions on things change, and that's all okay. It's just that sometimes then the person that you went for is not no longer the person that you're really into, or you can always learn to adapt to it and all that, and that's perfectly fine. But sometimes it doesn't work out, sometimes it does. But it's a lot harder when you start off younger, because you're, like I said, you change so much. It's insane how much you change between like 18 to 21. You always, like, when we were older, 18 to 21 seemed like a really similar age, but looking at it now, I feel like there's a huge difference in maturity between 21 and 18. Whereas when we were 18, we were like, oh fuck yeah, we're adults. But looking back, no, there's absolutely no way we were adults at 18. We're still kids. I would say we're still kids at 21. Like, I still don't know shit. And it's something you realize only after you've grown a bit. And going into long distance, that maturity, it plays a much bigger role, because there's a lot of compromise that has to go when it comes to that sort of stuff.
yeah. I would say that long distance. I mean, despite how sure you are, whatever. I mean, I haven't been in a long distance relationship, but what I think is it's just that there are certain people who really want someone who they could interact with. I mean, some people base a lot of affection and big part of the majority of the relationship on being able to be in contact with the person
Like
you're
more physical contact and
yeah,
shit.
a lot of physical contact, and I think when you're dependent on a lot of that, it sort of makes it a little difficult uh, to be in a long distance relationship. And I think we've seen it with like some of our friends as well. You're just too used to something and you can't really adapt to being away. And once you're used to just regular contact with someone, makes it pretty hard. So regardless, I think regardless of like what you said, regardless of whether you're really sure or not, it depends on exactly how a person,
How much
what,
effort
what the
he's willing to put.
definition of a relationship is to a person, and that's the biggest factor on whether or not you can. And I mean, yeah, uh, loving someone also plays a big part, but
But it's not like we can say any of us, like those of us who are in relationships, we can't say we weren't really in, like we can't say we weren't into the
I know,
relationship. It's
yeah,
just other circumstances that change things for us.
I think
I think
uh,
what Shavi was saying before was about the whole growing up thing. I think we just grew up during the whole phase, so we kind of grew out of the relationship, if that makes any sense, if I put it that way.
That can also happen, no? Like you look
I
for
think
something, you realize you want something else after that.
most of our, I mean, around 80% of uh, the relationships of people in our batch. I mean, I don't think a lot of people are still dating. Probably just like one or two people from, I mean, when school ended, there were probably like 20 different couples, probably 15, I don't know.
Yeah, like in our friend group itself, almost
Yeah,
everyone was
in our
dating.
friend group itself, there were so many just from
Yeah.
school. So, I mean, it goes to show that being young is, you know, is also sort of like a big factor, like Shavi said. You don't really know what you want in the future.
But then knowing that the four of us right now are single, doesn't it feel good to be able to sort of grow and become the person you want to be as an adult before getting involved with
Fuck yeah.
someone else? No, it honestly,
Fuck
like,
yeah.
bro, I'm telling you straight up, like, I honestly feel, I go to sleep fucking happy. I go to sleep, receiving memes from some of my closest friends. Like, wake up receiving more memes. Bro, I'm telling you, like, I know it sounds sad. Certain people, people who
No,
are
but
dating.
why should it be said?
No, no. I
You
mean,
don't need.
people who are dating like, oh my god, you're single. The fuck, bro. I've been dating for years, shit like that. But the whole point is, I can transition to an adult. I can become the person I want to be. I can try different things. I can explore. The whole point is that I can do what I want, and I honestly enjoy that phase right now. I don't mind a few years going down like this. Later, I might be fucked. That's a different story. But right now, I like the way it is. I go to sleep receiving memes, but that's the best part. Honestly, one day, I don't know, it's a weird story, but this one time I was about to go to sleep and get some memes from some dude, okay? It's a close friend of mine. So I get some
Some
memes
dude.
from him, and then I
I'll
just,
let him know that you
I think
the same as some
you,
dude.
we all
I
know who
think
it
that
is.
that friend sends us like 10 memes a day,
Yeah,
Yeah,
as
we
exactly.
all
opposed
know
to
this dude.
as
Fucking
opposed
great
to
dude.
Shavi, who sends me just like one every 2 days, and I mean his memes, the
No,
proper
it's true,
quality
but
memes.
it's called the shit. No, but I just remember the story where I was about to go to sleep, and then I received some sick meme, and I just, I'm just going to sleep on such a on such a good note. But
Yeah, I
it's just
think
how I feel.
I think taking that over, like, going to sleep, texting whoever, I don't know, I think anyone would take that. I mean, we experiencing that now. I fucking find that so much better than, texting someone and going to sleep. Because fucking entertaining yourself and going to sleep is much better than.
Ouch. But okay.
What's wrong?
Nothing.
No, no, it's an interesting thing, bro.
Interesting. No, it's like this. Like they both have the pros and cons. Obviously, like for me personally, I'm like I think Jason knows it best. Like I'm always that guy who wants to share emotions and shit. And I don't want to be sharing all my emotions with you guys because after you all make fun of me. No, but
No,
Shavi,
no,
no,
Shavi,
fuck.
Shavi is
no.
like open book. So I mean, you
Exactly. No, so it's like this. Like for me, it's like like I'm good with where I am now, but like Abdul said, it's like it's good that you figure that shit out, like figure out what exactly you want, what exactly you're okay with, what exactly you can compromise on, and then get into it. Because then if you can properly communicate what exactly you want, like obviously like, this is not like on your first date you don't come up with a fucking list and say, okay, I want this, I want this, I want BJs, I want all this shit. Like you don't do that shit. But like as like if it's a serious relationship you get in, like when you're getting into it, you talk about it and okay, I don't like this, and then they talk about and you talk about with them, and if it's something you can compromise on, you compromise on it. Whereas when we were younger, it was like, oh, how dare you do this, how like, do you not fucking love me if you're doing this shit? That was how it was when we were younger. Like I get that from personal experience. That's how I was. Oh, you're doing this shit, you don't fucking love me, do you? Like everything else that was done didn't fucking matter. Just this one thing I didn't like. This gave me personal matter.
Himath, going into a different question, but do you find love or this whole relationship thing a need or a want?
What do you
Oh,
mean?
it's
Just
tough,
having
bro.
a
It's a tough
relationship?
question.
Are you
A really tough
dependent on
question.
a relationship? Do you need a relationship in your life, or is it like if it happens, it happens?
I think no. I mean, I've met a lot of people who judge a person's value based on whether or not they're in a relationship, and some people determine their self-worth by just
Sri Lankan parents.
or like it's basically that childish attitude. I mean, probably a lot of us had in school. I mean, back in school, if you had a girlfriend, it was fucking it,
That
and
was
I
because it
guess
was also fucking illegal to have girlfriends, no? That was.
back in school. So I mean, I think for a lot of us, it was a want as opposed to a need.
Mhm.
And I think probably like 1.5 years after school, it it sort of became a need as well for a lot of people. Because I mean, there was at one point where you just couldn't, you can't be that one person who hasn't dated someone. So at that point, I think to a lot of people it became a need. But I'd like to say that to the people who've been through pretty long relationships, maybe 2 plus, 3 plus years, I think you get you get to a point where you feel like you've seen everything and you know exactly the type of commitment it takes for relationship and all of that. And that's when I think you realize that you don't really want to mess up again. So taking that chance on, I mean, you have to take another chance on love, but I mean, it keeps getting harder every time. So that's why I think a lot of us force ourselves to, just not get into relationships, stick to like, just, I mean, a lot of our friends just stick to
Fucking
maybe
it
just
on.
talking to someone for a week, not trying to get too attached, just, fool around and stuff. Because I think deep down,
Everyone's
people
scared to get hurt.
really been in relationships exactly. They're just scared to, open up again and stuff. I mean, there's certain stuff
Yeah.
you just talk about. I mean, when it's your first time, you talk about a lot of stuff that, you wouldn't really think you'd ever tell anyone. And just thinking about speaking about things like that to someone else, I mean, that's a pretty scary thought. So, I mean, I guess it's just a thing that it's a risk that you have to take eventually. Yeah, despite whatever you do, you're eventually going to have to find someone.
Yeah,
And
because I think the problem is starting from scratch, like you let go of so many things and then you realize you have to basically do all of that again. It's like losing
I mean,
so much progress and all that, and it's overwhelming.
will you
That's
call it progress? Yeah, I mean,
No, so that,
it's
I don't mean
interesting,
that in a
but
fucked up way.
no, I
I
know.
don't mean that in a fucked up way, but that's basically it. No, like it's like losing a.
no, there are certain things in a relationship a lot of people would like to do again. Maybe first times in everything and all. Those are pretty nice things, but it's just that opening up and speaking about topics
So it
that
feels tedious, right?
you wouldn't even dream about opening up to your friends about, stuff like that you just only confide in someone, things like that. That's what's scary. That's real commitment. I mean, eventually, yeah, like I said before, we're gonna have to do that again.
Yeah, it's like becoming vulnerable to someone again. No, that's
Exactly.
the scary part.
Yeah.
and like letting them be able to hurt. No, fuck this. It's all coming wrong to me. But like, knowing that there's a chance to always get for shit to go wrong again and all that, that's always going to be at the back of your mind.
I mean, it's going to be harder the longer your relationship lasted.
Obviously, yeah.
Yeah, that's also one major thing. And being, if it was your first proper relationship as well, that's also gonna leave some collateral damage.
Especially when the first one is like the longest one or the last one you had. That's pretty hard, I guess. And I guess me and Abdul relate fucking different. Abdul, you haven't been in like a fucking long relationship, yeah?
No.
So I think we relate different compared to you guys. So like it doesn't hit us as hard. I think I don't know. It
Yeah.
doesn't hit me as hard, but
No, but
pretty hard.
yeah, but I don't know. To end on a good note, I think all of us fucking love our lives right now, enjoying life, growing old, growing up, more than growing
Old.
Growing up.
That sounds depressing as fuck.
That sounds depressing. Yeah, growing up, just
Learning
figuring
about
shit out.
ourselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Just
Figuring
four
out.
single dudes shooting a podcast, dude. Nothing crazy about that.
Overall, I think Himath was a sick fucking guest. Bro, thank you for coming on. You're a tough man to catch, bro. I always say that. Should I call you a fucking occupied dude? A tough man to catch. But thanks for coming on. Fucking lit dude. Tell us where we can find you, bro.
So a lot of you probably don't know that I initially came up with the idea of the podcast. I mean, I put it on the group, but I mean, these certain people decided to move on with the idea without considering me.
Oi, that's fucked up, dude. Throwing
I'm
us
gonna,
under the bus.
I'm gonna start my own channel, Himath Reacts, where I'm gonna react to stuff. So you can find me on YouTube, you can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Himath Weeraduwa. And yeah, so thank you guys for having me.
Thank you for watching another episode, and we'll catch you next time.
I'm losing time again. Try to figure out